Yeah.
Okay, deposition. You have read about two destructive processes that shape Earth's surface, weathering and erosion. After material has been eroded, a constructive process, meaning it builds up, right? A constructive process takes place. Deposition is the laying down or settling of eroded material. As water or wind slows down, it has less energy and can hold less sediment. Some of the sediment can then be laid down or deposited. Popcorn Landry. Depositional.
Environments in Florida. Sediment is deposited in locations called depositional environments. These locations are on land, along coasts, or in oceans. Within each depositional environment, there may be certain landforms. For example, a coastal depositional environment may include swamps. Those are
Perfect. Perfect. Two. Here you go.
The landforms that take shape in depositional environments depend on the energy of the weather or the wind in the environment. The amount of energy determines the size and the amount of sediment moved. High energy environments transport large volumes of large sediment. The sediment is deposited when or where the energy decreases. Large crashing waves, like the ones you might see at Daytona Beach, are high energy and easily transport sand. If the waves lose their energy, some or all of their sediment is deposited. A swamp, such as one shown in Figure 5, is a low energy environment where fine grained sediment is deposited.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sediment layers. Sediment deposited in water typically forms layers called beds. Some examples of beds appear as stripes. In the photo at the beginning of the lesson, beds often form as layers of sediment at the bottom of the rivers, lakes, oceans. These layers can be preserved in sedimentary rocks.
Okay. Okay.
No, it is not. We're supposed to go to page 81.
Actually, right here.
Me?
Yep.
Okay. Interpreting landforms. What do landform characteristics, such as structure, elevation, and rock exposure, suggest about the development of landforms? Examples of landforms include mountains,
Stop.
valleys.
About development of landforms. And that's a question mark, and you pause in there. Go ahead.
Examples of landforms include mountains, valleys, dunes, and lakes. These landforms are always changing. Although you might not observe these changes in your lifetime, landform characteristics can be observed to determine whether destructive forces such as erosion and constructive forces such as deposition produce the landforms.
Okay.
Landforms created by erosion. Landforms can have features that are clearly produced by erosion. The landforms are often tall, jagged structures with cuts and layers of rock, as shown in the photograph in Figure 6. Landforms formed by erosion can expose several layers of rock. The teepees in the Painted Desert of Arizona contain several layers of different materials. Over time, erosion wore away parts of the land, leaving behind multicolored mounds.
Popcorn Cody.
All the different rates of erosion can result in unusual landforms when some rocks erode and leave more erosion than rocks behind. For example, tall, protruding landforms called hooties are shown in the middle photograph of Figure 6. Over time, water and ice eroded the less resistant sedimentary rock. The remaining rocks are more resistant. If you would like to examine hooties more closely, look back at Figure 2.
Okay, so if you see those, and if you remember from the Bill Nye, there were those arches, and the middle part went missing because that was the part of the rock that was weaker, so it got eroded faster, and then only the strong part on the outside was left. And then, who has not read yet? Go ahead, Joel, number 3.
I already read.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I'm looking at somebody who needs to turn their body around.
Number 3, right?
Yep.
Glacial,
Glacial.
erosion, and coastal erosion also form unique landforms. Glacial erosion produces jagged mountain peaks and U-shaped valleys, such as those in glaciers. National Park. Coastal erosion on the Oregon coast forms
Scenic.
scenic sea cliffs and caves in Florida. Coastal erosion changes the size and the shape of beaches.
Perfect, perfect. All right, I'm going to pick up on these ones. So landforms created by deposition. Landforms created by deposition are often flat and low-lying. Wind deposition, for example, can gradually form deserts of sand. Deposition also occurs where mountain streams reach out to the gentle slopes of wide, flat valleys. A gently sloping apron of sediment called an alluvial fan often forms where a stream flows from a steep, narrow canyon onto a flat plain at the foot of a mountain as shown in Figure 7. So you'll see, like, here are the mountains, right? There's only one way out that's very narrow, so when the water finally gets out and all that sediment that's being carried gets out, it fans out. Do you see? All of that dark piece, like this would be water. All this dark piece is all the sediment that was carried with the water.
Is he on top of the mountain, or is that?
This is an aerial view, like from the top.
I thought this was like a road or something.
Don't they take those pictures with drones?
I don't know what they took it with, but you'll see it kind of fans out. And I'll show you guys some other pictures throughout this class. You should not be moving ahead from where we were. You should have a textbook in front of you and following along. Second time I've asked you. Water traveling in a river can slow due to friction with the edges and the bottom of the river channel. An increase in channel width or depth can also slow the current and promote deposition. Deposition along a riverbed or coastline can occur where the speed of the water slows. Because if it gets slower, right, all the sediment's just going to kind of fall to the bottom. This deposition can form a sandbar, as shown in Figure 8. The end point for most rivers is where they reach the lake or an ocean and deposit sediment underwater. Wave action along shorelines also moves and deposits sediment. As glaciers melt, they can leave behind piles of sediment and rock. For example, glaciers can create long, narrow deposits called eskers and moraines. In the United States, these features are best preserved in northern states such as Wisconsin and New York. You will read more about glacial deposition in Lesson 3. Comparing landforms. Look again at the landforms shown in Figure 6, Figure 7, and Figure 8. Notice how landforms produced by erosion and deposition are different. Erosion produces landforms that are often tall and jagged, but deposition usually produces landforms on flat, low land. By observing the features of a landform, you can infer whether erosion or deposition produced it. So we're going back to our guided notes. I noticed some people were filling things in while we were reading, and that's not what I asked you to do. You should have been working with me. You should have been reading with me. instead of doing it on your own. Because I can guarantee you what my notes have is going to be slightly different. Because remember, I have lots of tricks, right, that I like to write and remind us. So if you don't have a highlighter, I need you to get one. And we're starting right on this page right here. All right. Deposition is the laying down or settling of eroded material, so it's already been moved. What word do you see in deposition that looks familiar, Kyle?
Position.
Okay, position, so it means it's moving position. What else?
Deposit.
Deposit. So when I deposit money in my bank account, am I adding my bank account up and building it up, or am I breaking it down?
Adding it up.
Very good. When I deposit, I'm adding money. So in this case, I'm adding sediment. So if I'm adding, is it going to be constructive or destructive?
Constructive.
Thank you for raising your hand, Helen. Constructive, thank you. It is constructive. And I like to put the example that I just said. If I deposit money, I'm building up my bank account. Right, building means it's constructive. So if you remember, I talked about depositional environments. I think Landry read that part, right? Depositional environments. So what is a depositional environment? An environment where, Maddox? A depositional environment is an environment where?
Sediment settles.
Very good. Areas where sediment is deposited.
So that is deposit.
So
And I like to think of it like it builds up like layers, right? It builds up like layers. Do you guys know the Drake songs? They started from the bottom, now we're here, right? That's the way I like to think about it. My bank account started small and I built it up over time. Started from the bottom, now we're here. So it builds up like layers. So there are areas where sediment is deposited or added up. What are some examples of areas where sediment is deposited in Florida specifically? You can look back on your text, Joel.
okay, swamps, deltas, beaches, and dunes.
Yep, swamps because it's slow moving water. So the water's slow moving, so all that sediment is just gonna settle to the bottom.
It's open.
Deltas,
Is that it?
deltas. I'll show you a picture of a delta in a second. I want you to write alluvial fan. I'm going to show you a picture of that too. A sandbar. A riverbed. And a beach. I'm going to show you what those look like in a second. I need Landry to come here.
Oh.
I won't do this again, do you understand?
Okay.
Wendy. Okay, so I'm about to show you what these landforms look like. Can I borrow that? No. Okay. Let's do this part while he's working on that for me. Sediments deposited in water typically form layers called beds. And I think about layers like layers of blankets, right?
Could I see the?
Or the different,
You'll have to wait, Landry. Beds often form as layers of sediment at the bottom of rivers, lakes, and oceans, and they're typically preserved in sedimentary rock. Get it? Because sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock is made up of layers of sediment. Thank you. Appreciate you. So let me show you those pictures that I was talking about, and then I'll get back to this. So here's a bigger picture of an alluvial fan. Do you see, this is all sediment, all sand that was deposited. It was in between the mountains. There was a very small opening, and as soon as the river opened, all that sand slowed down and deposited at the bottom.
It looks like roots.
It kind of does look like roots. And then here's a picture of a delta.
I've seen those.
So this is a delta. You'll notice the difference is it kind of looks like a fan, but there's multiple openings. So here's the river. The sediment moves along the river. It gets to the mouth of the river where the mouth opens, right? Like a mouth opens, right? Mouth opens to the ocean. And because the ocean is so vast, it's like all that sediment hits a wall and slows down and falls to deposit.
So that's what all the brown stuff is?
That's all sediment. So this is all water. All that's water, because you can see here's the sediment where it rises above the water. If you were to step on that, it would feel muddy, like quicksand. But more of it's going to deposit closer to the shore, and then it starts to be deposited less out here because it's already kind of been stuck.
Did you take that picture?
No. But do you guys understand what it means by a delta, or how it deposits at the end of a river? Like it moves fast through the river, and then it hits the wall of the ocean, and then kind of falls and deposits, slowly building up layers and layers and layers until it forms a flat, low-lying surface. Yes.
So now we're fishing like that. So I caught sadfish, and then we came back home, and then that was actually my first time fishing, like catching a fish. And then we came, and then I saw one of those. So we were going back home, and then we saw one of those.
They're super cool. I mean, you can see, and eventually they might harden enough to form sedimentary rock, but because they're right next to the water, they'll probably stay kind of damp. But lava would also be considered a deposition, like when lava erupts and forms new land, that would be considered depositional because it's forming layers, right? And builds up new surfaces. But it's depositing, settling, and building. Yes?
So for lava though, if the lava hits the water, then over time that turns into land, right?
Yeah.
Because of how hot it is.
Well, eventually it'll cool off and harden anyway.
And then
Yeah.
because of how hot it is, makes it cooler, makes it harder.
Now, we're not going to think of it like lava as being a depositional environment per se. I'm just saying that it's considered constructive because it's building new land. But depositional environments are really more focused on the sediment. That is the sediment that settles, and then all that like when you're building a sandcastle, right? And the sand builds on top of each other. It's kind of like that because sand is also sediment. Joel.
when I went to Utah, okay, so there was like a volcano like 13 miles away where we stayed at an Airbnb. And if you like stand at like a different angle, you can see the volcano.
Really?
The same one that I went on.
Oh yeah, I remember you told me about that before.
Yeah.
Utah is actually really pretty. So, without calling out, I want all my mobile friends. So, Shariah first, give me an example of a landform. Shariah, give me an example of a landform. Any landform. Ma, what's happening? All right, go ahead, give me a landform. A mountain. Daniel, give me a landform.
What about polar?
A landform, so a form of land. We should know what landforms are. Think about some of the stuff. The beach, perfect. Give me a landform, Asen.
I actually wrote that.
Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you today. Give me a landform. Asen and Radiance, give me landforms.
A valley.
He said,
Valley,
Asen said mountain.
Something wrong. Ow. My mic is echoing so much. My ears are like.
why don't you type it in the chat? My in-class friends, give me examples of landforms. Ooh, look at all these hands. Leon, Adun, Chinta. Give me hey, can we put ourselves on mute, please?
Yeah, hard pass. I don't think I'm gonna want.
So, Rocks,
I don't think
hey,
it's my just.
Daniel, can you go on mute, please? Thanks, darling. I can also tell that we're not on task. Let's think about landforms that rocks can create. Lucas.
Wait, can a canyon?
A canyon? Landry.
A continent.
A continent is,
A landform.
no, a continent is
A name for land.
a piece of land, but it's not a form.
Okay, Canada.
Canada is a country. No, that's a good perspective because it is land, right? But we're looking for specific
Island.
features on that land.
Volcanoes.
Yes, but those volcanoes are formed by tectonic plates. Allison, tundra is a biome, so it's an environment.
So, ice flakes?
Let's look up the definition for a landform to clarify. Okay?
Before we do
Hold up. If I look up the definition, it is a natural feature of the Earth's surface. A tundra is a biome, so an environment. A volcano would be a landform, but I don't want to include it on here because those are created by tectonic. Well, I could put a volcano because mountains are formed by tectonic plates. Sebastian.
Glaciers?
Glaciers.
Are cities landforms?
Cities are not, landforms are natural features. Cities are created by man. Allison.
So basically, does ice flakes count?
And a what?
Ice flakes?
Icequake?
Ice flakes.
Glacier.
That's I don't know what you mean by
Ice
ice
It's like when
flake.
your house reaches in like.
You mean an
That's a
icicle?
glacier.
But that's not a landform. That's a stalactite is part of what other landform?
Okay.
A cave.
Tundra.
A tundra is
I'm missing one, but I don't know which one it is. What's that one?
so we've discussed this a couple times. Tundra is a biome. It's an environment where things live. It's not a landform. Joel.
A hoodoo.
A hoodoo.
Oh, okay, a hoodoo is a thing that's
It's a cliff. If you were looking up above, we talked about some deltas.
Yeah.
A swamp.
All blue little fan.
a sandbar.
I've been to.
There are a lot of different landforms.
I thought they were bodies of water, very small.
Plateaus. A plateau is like, it looks like a mountain, but the top, whole pointy top was cut off.
That's actually please.
But spelled differently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Miss Burley, I have another one.
Give me 1 second, Shreya. What were you saying, Caleb?
Remember the picture you showed us when the water made a crack in the
Ice wedging?
no. Remember when you showed us that picture that you went on a vacation inside of a
So that was like a mini canyon.
yeah, and then there was something the water made like a hole in it.
So I would say like a canyon.
Yeah.
Okay. Lucas?
What is spring count as a landform?
Yes, it is is a natural feature. What's another one, Shreya?
I'm going to say a ravine.
A what?
A ravine.
A ravine, okay.
A cave?
A cave, which we already have. Allison? A forest. Okay.
That is not.
It is a natural feature on Earth's surface, so I can understand. Like, because rivers and islands would be considered those as well. Yep.
A dam.
Dams are typically built are man-made or built by animals, so they're not naturally occurring. They're not built by the earth.
What if like a tree falls and it like blocks off the floor?
We're talking about what the earth has naturally done on its own.
Oh,
Okay.
Wait, what a waterfall?
Is it wide?
Brian,
A desert?
a desert is a yes, but it's also a biome too. All right.
Peninsula.
So landforms have features that are clearly produced by weathering and erosion. This is the part where I really want you to star.
Erosion?
This section. We have landforms that are specifically formed by erosion. Landforms that are formed by erosion start big and get smaller because because erosion is destructive. They start big and get smaller. So valleys were originally mountains and then glaciers carved out a piece in between them, right? I could also, so I like to say it looks like a piece of it is missing. Because it's destructive. If I'm destroying something, it means I'm breaking something. Canyons, so like, canyons remind me of like if I had ice cream, right? A brand new tub of ice cream, and I took a spoon and carved some of it out, I could form a little canyon of ice cream, but it looks like I took a big chunk out of the rock, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Cliffs. A cliff originally was a hill, and then part of that hill got eroded and looks like it's missing. A cave, same thing, is the side of a mountain, and there's a giant hole in the middle, right? An arch, like we saw, and a hoodoo. They all look like something is missing from them. Jagged mountains were originally fuller, they looked like hills. But then part of the mountain was eroded. And it looked like something was missing. So the idea is if it's produced by erosion, it started big and got smaller because it was destructive. Landforms that are produced by deposition are often flat and low-lying because it takes a while to build them up. It takes a while to build them up, just like layers of blankets. These ones start small and get bigger.
It's like when you throw a blanket.
Like a delta and an alluvial fan. They're just bunches of layers of sediment that have been built up over time. How many of you have ever been to the beach? Freeze for a second. How many of you have ever been to the beach and it's right after it's low tide, so it's during low tide. You get in the water and then you get a couple feet in and you're up to your waist. And then you keep stepping, and then all of a sudden the water's only up to your ankles. Like, so you step in the water, it's deep, and then you keep stepping, and then you're suddenly standing on top of a hill. A sandbar. Sandbars are examples of depositional environments because they start small, and then once the low tide pulls all of the sand back, it makes the hill much bigger, and then you're standing on top of the water, right? So here you are, like treading water, trying to keep your head above, and you take a couple more steps, and then you're standing on top because all the sediment was layered on top of each other to form a hill.
Or sometimes, like, you're on top, and then, like, there's just a big drop.
Yep, and then you step off, and then there's a big drop.
It's like
Yes, I love that. Whenever you're like going down the hill, you're like
That a sandbar is depositional because it's all that sand that's being built up. So if I were to look at a landform, I should be able to look at it and say, that looks like it started small and got bigger, or it looks like it started big and got smaller. If it started big and got smaller, is it made by erosion or deposition? Started big, got smaller. Landry.
That is erosion.
Erosion, because if it got smaller, it means I'm taking things away. If it starts small and gets bigger, it's formed by deposition because it got built up over time. Like my bank account, right?
Couldn't it also be erosion?
If it looks kind of like jagged, like somebody took a bite out of it, like something's missing.
Like an apple.
Yeah. Melissa. Yes. Thumbs up when you're ready for me to flip to the next page.
Wait, whoa.
So just to recap, we talked about how deposition is constructed because it builds up. Swamps, deltas, alluvial fans, sandbars, beaches, riverbeds, those are all depositional because That's where sediment is deposited and settles. Landforms that are produced by weathering and erosion, because weathering and erosion are destructive, those landforms look like somebody did something to destroy them. They started big and then got smaller. Somebody took pieces away. Like cliffs, a sea cliff or a cliff on the earth, right? If I look at a cave, for example, here's one from Harry Potter that I like to use as an example. So you'll see right there, you'll notice that here's a mountain or a landform, and the water crashed against the side of this cave or side of this mountain and slowly started taking pieces of the mountain away to form a hole inside of it.
Miss Burley, that's movie number 6, right?
That is. Good job.
Movie number 6, they're going.
Arches and hoodoos like we saw in the Bill Nye. Valleys that are carved by glaciers. Like I said, it reminds me of when I take a scoop out of my ice cream. And then landforms formed by deposition are often flat and low-lying because it takes time to build them up. They start very, very small. Think about, does anybody in this class have Miss Rose?
No.
Okay. Did you guys read about the parrotfish?
Yeah.
How the parrotfish, they poop out sand and they build islands?
Yep.
That's depositional because they start small and then that sand builds up over time.
They call it parrotfish because of its feet.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Lucas.
Can I share a story about a sandbar?
Sure.
So I was out surfing with my cousins, and the waves were getting really big, and we couldn't stand. And the wave, we were too far out to catch a wave, so we didn't know what to do. So then we're just paddling, and then I'm like, I'm gonna get off and see if there's a sandbar. So there's a sandbar right where we are, and so then the next wave that comes in is this gigantic wave. We all get on our boards and we ride it, and it just starts barreling.
So you ended up like crashing on you? Did you end up like slamming against the sand?
No, we ended up riding it all the way in.
Oh, nice. Absolutely. I like doing body surfing. And then that's where your whole body gets abrased by the sand. Yep.
When I went to Uri, Colorado, there was a mountain, and then if you look inside of it, there's like a big cave that you could sleep in. So me and my grandpa, my mom, and my brother went into the cave, and there was like a little tiny little bat.
Oh. And then last one. Flip it to the back.
There's just a big wave. I just wait for one. I'm not sure. I seriously just come to this taste that.
Isn't there something called a sandbar?
I sit down.
All right, so this is our little cheat sheet, our little exit ticket. So we've got landforms formed by erosion and landforms formed by deposition. I want you guys to talk to each other for the next 2 minutes so that we can figure out a list of what the difference between the two are. So you have 2 minutes to talk to each other to tell me, so you can tell me what to write and what is the difference between them.
Are we saying how they?
So I'm going to read what we have from the chat. So I really liked what Asen said. He said erosion breaks down. So you're writing what I have, which means it's destructive. Deposition builds up, which means it's constructive. And that makes sense. If it's constructive, it's going to start small and get bigger. And if it's destructive, it's going to start big and
Get small.
get smaller.
Oh, it's like one of the places they have to like destroy a wrecking ball. So cool.
Oh, right.
You have to be able to know the difference. That deposition is building up. That erosion is breaking, that erosion takes away. And when we say erosion, you have to also remember that if it's being eroded, it has already been broken down. Perfect. If it's being eroded or moved, it's already been broken down. Just like when we talked about moving, you can't move your house without breaking it down first and putting it in boxes so it's easy to move.
Weathering and then erosion.
Weathering, erosion, and then deposition. Remember when? Weathering happens first, erosion happens second, deposition happens last. Like a wedding ring, it's like some people call a wedding ring a rock. They're like, look at that rock.
Okay, it's a rock.
It is, because it actually is. This is done. Right? You got married? I've been married. But think about it. Weathering first, then erosion, and then deposition. I have to break it down, then I can move it, then I can settle. So I break it, then I move it.
No, then you keep it.
And then you could say, then I keep it or settle it.